The state of Florida is now home to one of the worst coronavirus hotspots in the country. According to the Centers for Disease Control, Florida was home to 1/5 of the nation's new COVID infections last week. That's more than any other state. More than 73,000 people tested positive in Florida last week. That's 4 times worse than at the start of July. So far, about 48% of the state is vaccinated. Hospitals are once again filling up with patients who have contracted the virus. Despite the rise in cases, Governor Ron DeSantis is sending mixed messages. He has encouraged people to get vaccinated, saying vaccines are, quote, saving lives. But DeSantis has opposed school mask mandates, and he openly criticizes Dr. Anthony Fauci, the government's top infectious disease expert. The Republicans' re-election campaign sells merchandise with sayings that include, "Don't Fauci my Florida." Tampa Bay Times political editor Steve Contorno joins me now. Steve, thanks so much for being with us. So as we said, 1 out of every 5 new coronavirus cases is happening in the state of Florida. Is Governor DeSantis changing his tone on this issue?
No, in fact, he is essentially doubling down on the policies that he has implemented over the last 12 months, essentially, which is encourage people to get vaccinated, but not mandating it. He is staying away from mask mandates, as in fact is actually this past week has said if any school district tries to require mask mandates at their schools, he'll call the legislature back into session and ban that practice. So he has been a strong proponent of individual liberty during this process and telling people to make smart decisions for themselves and not going with any kind of mandate whatsoever.
Well, what does the current coronavirus situation in Florida look like compared to when it had peak COVID numbers?
There is a difference in that, there are a lot of cases, and we're starting to see hospitals once again go through some of the difficulties that they experienced around this time last year. And the difference that we're hearing from doctors and hospitals is that a lot of the people who are showing up are younger and they are unvaccinated. It is a population right now that is at most risk is those who haven't been vaccinated. And the concern, though, going forward is that whether or not people who are vaccinated will continue to get sick and potentially spread the virus, and those who are not vaccinated obviously could, cause these sorts of variants that we're seeing really running rampant right now in Florida.
Steve, I also want to ask you about the red tide outbreak, which is an algae bloom off the Florida coast. How is the state of Florida responding, and why does the mayor of St. Petersburg believe Governor DeSantis' response is politicized, in his words?
So Governor DeSantis has chosen not to declare a state of emergency around the Tampa Bay area, which is really the epicenter of this ecological crisis. We've had our beaches now experiencing dead fish for the past couple weeks. It had been Tampa Bay pulling hundreds and hundreds of tons of dead fish out of the water. The stench has been unbearable. And largely from the month when the governor was here, when he declared that, red tide wouldn't be as bad as it had been in years past, things got a lot worse in the month after, and he kind of stopped talking about the issue. And that's where the mayor of St. Petersburg started to say, where is our governor on this? The governor's office has said, and he has said that, his people have been on the ground since day one, that he has his top environmental experts here trying to help us through this crisis. But, whether or not Florida has made the funding available to and all the resources available to the Tampa Bay area to fight this there's been questions raised about that from the mayor of St. Petersburg.
We'll continue to watch that. While we have you, Steve, Governor DeSantis' political ambitions remain unclear. Can you tell us what moves he's made that could potentially indicate what he does next?
Well, I think a lot of the steps he has taken has been to put himself in front of a national audience. He sent Florida law enforcement officers to the Texas border and joined the Texas governor for an event there. He is obviously selling that merchandise that you mentioned earlier, the Don't Fauci My Florida koozies that have gotten a lot of national attention. He spends a lot of time on Fox News. He's done some speaking arrangements and engagements outside of the state of Florida. And he's also, just generally been one of the most outspoken Republicans on a day-to-day basis and pushing back against President Biden on everything from Cuba policy to the coronavirus to immigration. So he has clearly put himself in the national dialogue and positioned himself to be one of the leading contenders to run for president in 2024 if President Trump doesn't run for re-election again.
Right, the big question. All right, Steve Contorno for us. Steve, thank you very much.
Absolutely.